When family members inherit a home together. Hi, this is Kurt Lindsley, your host with Alabama Inherited Homes. Losing a loved one is a painful and stressful experience, and people often handle the stress of the situation in different ways. As much as we'd like to hope it wouldn't be so, disputes among siblings or legal heirs over the settlement of inherited property are fairly common. Sibling rivalries can come into play, and disagreements can arise over each other's rightful role. What's needed is to work to ensure that disputes and disagreements do not lead to litigation. Litigation has this way of worsening the situation by causing strain between family members. It creates this foreboding sense of uncertainty and extended delays, not to mention the expense and no doubt the aggravation associated with legal hearings. The tremendous cost involved in litigation ends up being a wasteful expenditure, so prevent it whenever you possibly can. The good news is this situation can normally be avoided. By keeping the emotional heat down and with a cooperative mindset, there is typically a way to solve matters peacefully and fairly. A viable solution may be for one of the heirs to buy the property from the others. If one of the siblings is interested in keeping it while the others want to sell, the interested sibling can buy out the others using conventional financing. The cost involved in this process can be minimal and includes the appraiser's fees and closing costs. You pay your siblings in cash for their shares and get the title of the property transferred into your sole name through a deed. Another option may be a private agreement. For example, what if you or your sibling cannot qualify for a mortgage? Then the one who does not wish to keep the house can finance the transaction. This will mean you will not need a home loan or to incur out-of-pocket expenses. For a private agreement, you make a promissory note to your sibling for his or her share of the value as assessed by the appraisal. The amount due to him or her can be paid in monthly installments along with interest. And with this arrangement, you can buy out the property over time. If necessary, you may also make a deed of trust that grants the power to foreclose if you default on payments. Renting the property could be the solution if none of the siblings want to keep the property personally, but as a group, the heirs see benefit in the house as rental or investment property. If you have a good relationship and can get along for an extended period of time as co-owners of the property, you can rent out the property and take your share out of the proceeds each month. Sometimes, though, the best arrangement is still to sell the property, deduct the expenses and costs involved and the commissions paid, and then divide the resulting amount amongst all of the siblings. Selling the property as soon as you inherit also helps save on the capital gains tax. Capital gains tax for sale of the inherited property is calculated on the property value after the death of the decedent. And so selling it quickly may mean there is nothing to pay in capital gains tax. Now let me say this, a lawsuit should be the last resort for you to settle the inherited property if you can't come to an amicable agreement with your siblings over the settlement. Now what about holdovers? That would be someone living in the home when the owner passes away. If you or one of your siblings is living in the property, an agreement will need to be reached with all of the heirs regarding whether that individual will continue to live there or will need to vacate. In the case of continuing to live there, the terms need to be clearly drafted so there are no misunderstandings going forward. If the right to remain there is mentioned in the will, then those wishes should be honored, of course. But if it has to be challenged for some reason, the necessary legal steps and proceedings must be adhered to. If the decision is made to sell the property, then the property must be vacated with a definite timeline facilitating the sale. If the occupant wants to keep living in the home despite the sale, then that must be dealt with accordingly. And if you are inheriting a property with tenants living in it, you must fulfill some responsibilities from the position of a landlord. If the property is sold, the legal rights of the tenants must be given due consideration. For complicated situations like this, be sure to consult an attorney. So what about personal property inside the house? Decisions about the settlement of the property or the division of its contents among the legal heirs must follow the guidance given in the will. If there's not a will in place that's been enacted by the owner of the property, then the state's laws regarding intestate succession come into play. If either the will or the law requires the estate to be divided equally, the heirs must act accordingly. Now, what about sentimental items in the house? Since what is sentimental is often subjective and typically cannot be decided by an appraiser, the real challenge comes when more than one sibling wants the same possession. Negotiation and compromise are called for. A real estate agent can be appointed to decide the value of the property. The challenge here may revolve around how to divide the real estate among heirs that is acceptable to all parties. The two main approaches could include either selling the property to divide the proceeds or keeping the property and sharing its use. If the estate also features assets that cannot be distributed on a pro rata basis, an equal division of the value is a solution. If a sibling wants to hold the property, then the others can get cash equal to their share of the property or other assets as it may be decided. Ultimately, everyone involved in the deal walks away with his or her share of the property in the right proportion. And just a heads up, dealing with leftover items in an estate can be labor intensive. It helps to categorize items as those to keep, those to sell, those to donate, those to throw away. Remember that during an estate sale, people may be ready to buy even the oddest things, so you never know. Therefore, you'll want to make an effort to see that as many things as possible are sold or auctioned away to be converted into cash and distributed among the heirs. Well, next time we're going to help familiarize you with some key concepts you'll need to know when selling an inherited house, so you'll want to tune in for that. Are you inheriting a home, and are you wanting to discuss your situation with a trained realtor? Well, call me today, toll free at 888-923-5547, extension 831. I also want to invite you to follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /Kurt Huntsville. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel for the latest content. This is Kurt Lindsley. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.